So you're ready to dive in, literally. You've got the dream of exploring the underwater world, you've probably picked out a mask, but hold on. Before you get anywhere near the water, there's this one crucial piece of paper, the Diver Medical Questionnaire. Today, we're going to break down this super important form, which is basically your very first safety stop before you even start your training. Let's get into what it's all about. It's a fair question, right? You're all excited about adventure, and suddenly you're filling out a form that feels like you're at the doctor's office. I mean, what does your past health have to do with checking out some cool fish and coral? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. Because the moment you start to descend, the laws of physics get a whole new meaning for your body. You're entering an environment where the pressure affects your lungs, your ears, your sinuses, even your blood. This form isn't just red tape. It's a super smart tool designed to make sure a minor issue on land doesn't turn into a major problem 50 feet down. Okay, so let's get right into the why. Why does diving, this amazing activity, demand its own special kind of medical screening? It really just boils down to this. Diving safely requires you to be in good physical and mental shape. A condition that you might not even think about in your day-to-day life could become a real hazard when you're breathing compressed air underwater. This checkup is just there to flag those specific things for a closer look. The whole process kicks off with just one page and 10 little questions. You can think of it as your initial safety screen, the first line of defense for you and your future dive buddies. And it's a really simple two-step deal. Step 1, you answer those 10 questions honestly. And I can't stress that enough. Honesty is key. Step 2, if even one of those answers is a yes, it doesn't mean your diving dream is over. It just means we need to take a closer look with a doctor. And these questions, they cover a pretty wide range of topics. They'll ask about your age, because that can be a factor for heart health, and about any issues with your ears or sinuses, which are, absolutely critical for handling pressure changes. They also touch on recent surgeries, medications you might be taking, and even your basic fitness level. It's a quick but surprisingly thorough snapshot. So, here's the fork in the road. What happens after you answer? Well, if you answered no to all 10 questions, that's awesome. You just sign the form and you are medically good to go. But if you have one or more yes answers, you'll need to take the form to a doctor for a proper medical evaluation. Simple as that. Now, it's so easy to see a yes answer and think it's a big red stop sign. But it's really not. You should think of it more like a smart, responsible detour that just makes sure you're truly ready for what diving asks of your body. A yes doesn't mean you can't dive. It just means your situation needs an expert opinion. A doctor can look at your specific condition and see how it relates to diving. And you know what? A lot of the time, they'll give you the all clear. This is all about making smart choices, not keeping people out of the water. So if you do answer yes, the form guides you to these more detailed sections. For instance, a yes about your lungs or heart will point you to box A. This part goes deeper into your cardiopulmonary system, basically the engine that powers you, especially when you're underwater. And when you see the examples, it totally makes sense. A condition like asthma, for instance, could potentially lead to air getting trapped in your lungs. As you ascend and the pressure drops, that trapped air would expand, and that could cause a serious injury. These are the exact kinds of risks a doctor needs to weigh in on. All right, next up is box C, which is all about your ears, eyes, and sinuses. If you've ever felt your ears pop on an airplane, you've had just a tiny taste of the pressure changes that divers manage on every single dive. This is why the form asks about stuff like sinus infections or any past ear or eye surgeries. See, if one of those air spaces, like a sinus, gets blocked, you can't equalize it. On the way down, that can cause a really painful squeeze. Being able to equalize isn't just about being comfortable, it's absolutely fundamental to safe diving. The form also looks at your neurological health. The underwater world where you're depending on life support equipment is really not the place to have any kind of sudden, unexpected neurological issue. Your brain and nervous system have to be rock solid. And that's why a history of recurring migraines, any blackouts or fainting, or conditions like epilepsy need a doctor's signature. Your safety underwater all comes down to being conscious, aware, and in control 100% of the time. And this questionnaire is incredibly thorough. I mean, besides what we've just talked about, it has sections for back problems, which can affect carrying heavy gear, diabetes, which needs careful management, and even behavioral health, because, your mental state is just as important as your physical one down there. Okay, so you've ticked yes, and you know which conditions need a closer look. So what's the last step to getting certified? Well, it's time for a visit to the doctor.
And the process is designed to be really clear. You take all 3 pages of the form, your answers, and the parts for the doctor, to your physician. They'll look over your answers, do an evaluation, and then, hopefully, give you their signed approval.
This sentence right here, this is what you're hoping for. This is the official green light from a medical professional. Getting this signature means you've done your due diligence and an expert agrees that you are ready for the adventure. In the end, after all the checkboxes and signatures, this entire thing really just comes down to one core idea: taking personal responsibility for your own safety. When you sign this form, this is the declaration you're making. You are accepting responsibility by being truthful. Your honesty is without a doubt a more important piece of gear than anything you could ever buy. And it all circles back to this. 10 simple questions. They aren't there to stop you from diving. They're there to make sure you and every single person you're in the water with can do it safely. They're the foundation of a safe and long diving life. So just remember that as you get ready to take that big stride into the blue, the ocean's going to be there tomorrow. This form helps make sure you will be too. It's about changing the goal from just diving to diving safety, which leaves us with one last question to think about. What's more important, the adventure or the adventurer?